Today on the Diz List, we discuss the top 5 character experiences at Walt Disney World.
Welcome to the Diz List, the podcast that ranks everything in Walt Disney World. I'm Nick.
And I'm Rob, and welcome to episode 27, where we discuss the top 5 character experiences at Walt Disney World.
But before we get to the list, if you've been enjoying the show, please take time to rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Also, be sure to share us with your friends and family and whoever else you think would enjoy listening. You can also follow along on Twitter and Instagram at DizListPod. This is our first episode in the new year, so...
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, 2023. What are you hoping for in this new year from Disney? I know we talked about it on our wish list episode a few weeks back, but what do you think?
Well, I think with change of leadership, what it's going to do is it's going to create a whole lot more positivity within the company, not only the fans, but the people that are working within the company. And I mean, I don't know this for a fact. This is all kind of hearsay, but from what I know, there weren't a lot of people that were huge fans of, the previous CEO, and bringing back a fan favorite, not only by the employees, but from fans, I think it kind of has renewed everyone's happiness and excitement for the Walt Disney Company. So I'm looking for lots of good things. I mean, it's obviously it's a really generic general answer, but I think change at the top is really going to trickle down and make for some awesome things that are going to come, not only the parks, but movies, TV, Disney Plus. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that, we can take a step back and recognize that, perhaps Iger's not going to do anything differently, but the very fact that he's more likable will change morale. And
Absolutely.
And good morale amongst cast members translates to better experiences for guests. So, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for our trips we have planned this year.
Yeah.
You are doing something you've never done before, Disney-related.
I think it's going to be fantastic. We're hopefully going to Disneyland, and I know I keep saying hopefully, but I haven't gone in and pressed that button to buy the tickets yet. So in order to get our podcast started, we needed some way to get it out for everybody to hear. So what we decided to do was go online and look around and try to find someone who can distribute our podcast to all the main services for us. We did a little research and we found that the best one was Anchor. Now, Anchor's a Spotify company, and Spotify is something that I use every day, but it also goes to other platforms. It's an easy way to make a podcast, and everything is right there in the app. So, for example, Anchor has tools that you can record, edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. If you don't have any professional editing software, you can do it right there on your phone. When you host your podcast on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on all the different listening platforms. I do Spotify, but you can also do Apple Podcasts and many more. Okay, students, let's review. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. If you don't have all the equipment and all the computer editing software, you can do it right on your phone. And the best part is it's free, like free, which is great for sure. Go and download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Go for it.
Welcome back. That was a great halftime show with Emmett Otter. I love a good jug band.
We used to watch that growing up with my cousins.
Yeah.
It was always a fun thing we would watch every year.
A tradition?
I don't think I've watched it in like maybe 15, 20 years, though.
Really?
Yeah, because we were like in, middle school and watching. And yeah, I got to go back and watch that. Is it on Disney Plus?
Yeah, but that's scary that you just said that, right?
What, that I haven't watched it in 20 years?
And then you followed it up with, because we were in middle school.
When did it?
No, but what's scary is the fact that we're that old. We're old people now.
I want to look up the release.
Yeah,
you can talk about our list a little bit. I want to look this up.
I can tell you right now.
You know when it came out?
Well, only because I actually had pulled it up. It's 1977.
Holy cow! I was going to guess the 80s.
No, December 4th, 1977.
Sheesh! I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Oh,
so
cool.
Today, what we're going to talk about is our character experiences, our character interactions.
Can you be too old to get your photo taken with a character?
I mean, I can't think of an age at which it's inappropriate. Okay? I think that what's important to understand is that character interactions, here's what I will start with, because this is important for perspective. When I first went, now we have talked on this show before, I'm a Disney newbie. I've always liked Disney movies and stuff like that, but I had not gone to the parks until 2019. And I was of the thought that it's got to be so awkward with like characters and like especially the ones that don't talk, face characters, at least they talk. And I remember thinking to myself, it's gonna be whatever, the kids can go do it. And I've got a couple on my list that when I met them, I was like a little kid. And it is
magical. Yeah,
exactly. Like you don't think as a, 40-something-year-old man that you're going to like get sucked into that, but they make you feel comfortable. I don't know what kind of education they give these people in the Disney University, because they go and they take the classes.
You have to take performance classes.
But the way that they get you to interact with them. Yeah. Now look, they read the room. They are very good at reading the room. Like if you're not into it, they'll move along. But I can tell you, I was shocked. And my son was one I thought was not. He was totally not into it. I'm just gonna go and let my sister go ahead and get the autographs and whatnot. Then he started getting autographs and wanted to collect them. Then he was the buffer between my daughter, who was a little bit skeptical at the time, and the character. And then now he loves it. He loves meeting new characters. It's it's a Pokemon thing for him. So.
Yeah, and I mean, my kids are older and they haven't grown out of it. It's just such a fun experience.
It is.
Get your picture taken and
absolutely. So you want to start this off then?
Yeah. My first one is maybe not as conventional or traditional, I will say, as a normal meet and greet, and maybe kind of a weird one to start off on. But my first one that I'll start off with takes place over in Galaxy's Edge, and that is when Kylo Ren and the Stormtroopers walk around. Now, I know it's a different type of meet and greet. You're not waiting in line. They're just kind of walking around, which I'll get to a little bit later in my list too. But one of the fun interactions was my son was kind of walking around, and Kylo Ren came right up to him and started talking. And I know that they're like pre-recorded things that they can say, but he was asking him if he would join the dark side, and my son just looks up and goes, "Yeah." Normally kids are kind of nervous, and he looks up and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll join the dark side." This is really funny.
Did you ever meet Kylo when it was a meet and greet?
Yes, I did. That's when it was in Launch Bay.
Yes, correct. Yep.
Yes, and I have the Chewbacca one on my honorable mention. And when I got to meet Chewbacca, he came up and gave me a huge hug, and I may have teared up a little bit, may not. So we'll see if there weren't any witnesses.
Maybe he just has bad body odor, smell like cutting onions, something like that.
No, it was pretty awesome. It was pretty special. Getting to see those Star Wars characters in real life was pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. So and I know that out in California, we've mentioned this before, they're bringing out Fennec Shan, they're bringing out Boba Fett, they're bringing out the Mandalorian with Grogu together in one, which is so cool that they get them out there. And my thought is the reason I think Disneyland gets those things first is, I mean, that's the land of actors and actresses. So I feel like they get more people that are trying to, make it in Hollywood, and they have more of the ability to perform. That's a guess, though. I don't know.
My take on it is that there's less parks, and so they need less talent. Yeah. I don't mean not that they're less talented. They need less people. So when I say talent, I mean like the actual people. They need less actors.
Right. So the resume stack is pretty high, and they can be a little bit more choosy.
Well, I guess I mean like, if you're going to have a Mickey in every park, if you're going to have a Minnie in every park, if you're going to have a Donald in every, when you start adding up all the things you need to have in every park, now you have less and less people to choose from to throw out a Boba, Mando,
right?
A Fennec. Like you can't do those specialty characters because you just don't have the actual the physical people. You don't have them. Whereas over there's 2 parks. You know what I mean? So they don't need to have 4 different Mickeys, Minnies, Daisies, Donalds. They don't need that. But
so to end, I'll just finish with this one. As far as character interactions, there's different versions of what what a character interaction can be. They can be walking around and walk right up to you and
Yeah.
talk, and so that's totally different than a lot of the other ones that I'm going to mention on my list. So my number 5 is the Stormtroopers and Kylo Ren in Galaxy's Edge. What do you have?
So my number 5 is staying in the same vein here as far as the universe goes, and that would be Chewie. Because when I met Chewie at the launch bay, it was that was the moment. So I was by myself. The kids were off with their mother watching. Oh, man, I can't remember which one of the shows in Hollywood Studios it was, whether it was Frozen or
Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid, one of the two. I think it was Little Mermaid.
Or it could be, there's also Beauty and the Beast.
I don't think it was that.
Okay.
It could have been. Either way, I went into Launch Bay by myself and met Kylo. That was cool. I like Kylo better as a walk around than as a meet and greet.
Because
it's awkward.
It can be awkward.
It's like really
You're
awkward.
standing there next to this
Right.
villain.
And he's like only got so many things he can say.
Yeah.
Chewie doesn't have to say anything. That was the moment that I realized, okay, so like this is what it feels like to be a little kid meeting Mickey. Mm-hmm. Because meeting Chewbacca, getting a big hug, and talking to Chewbacca. I mean, I know he's not saying words, but I mean, it was one of the best experiences. I wish they'd bring that particular meet and greet back as opposed to just seeing him from afar. It's cool to see him and you know, he and Rey from afar or walking around, but walking in and giving a hug to Chewbacca. It was amazing.
And we talk about people eaters a lot on the show, and what that means is what they're looking for is places that are going to suck people in and take them out of other areas and make it so the park seems less crowded. They want more people. They want your money, but they want to spread people out. And I think something like that is a great idea because, you know, people will they may even buy a Genie Plus just so they can book that experience with Chewbacca. And the nice thing about Chewbacca is that Chewbacca's been in so many of the films that it sort of transcends generations. So our generation that grew up with the original trilogy with Han and Chewbacca, and then you have the prequel series that also features Chewbacca pretty heavily. He's that universal character that so many generations are going to want to meet. Mm-hmm. And he was in, which one of the prequels? He was in part 3?
Yeah.
Because they go to Kashyyyk, his home planet. They
actually go to Kashyyyk, yeah.
Right. I haven't watched those in a long time.
Well, there's not really a good reason to watch them.
I'm not a huge fan. I think Mikey's getting mad at us right now listening.
That's okay. So that was my number 5, Chewbacca. Number 4 for you?
Number 4 is kind of an interesting one that was a great surprise on our 2019 trip during Christmas time. As we walked into Epcot, we get through the main gates, we scan our magic bands and get through, and we're walking up to Spaceship Earth, and we look off to the right-hand side, and there's Pluto just chilling there, just standing there off to the side. There's an area that's kind of under an awning, and it has a flat kind of white background, and there's a row of bushes in the front. Are you familiar with where I'm talking about there? So over there, it was just Pluto hanging out with another cast member. I don't know if a handler.
Handler.
Sure.
Yep.
And
she was walking the dog.
And Pluto was just waving at us. There was nobody there. Pluto's waving. And I look over and I go, let's go see Pluto. And my wife was like, let's do it. So we went over. We got our picture taken with Pluto. And I think Pluto had like earmuffs on. It was obviously Christmas themed. And it was just so great. It was like this moment that we weren't planning for. And Pluto was just there hanging out, waving. And it was just a great opportunity. And this list for me are things that mean a lot to me and my experiences. I'm not saying these are the top 5 best ones you can have in the park. These are ones that meant a lot to me personally. And obviously the Chewbacca one was that for you as well. It was just exciting. So we have this great family photo of the 4 of us with Pluto, mouth open, big tongue sticking out. Not me, Pluto. And but
I love that you had to clarify, and listeners were like wondering. I guarantee it.
They were.
What are you talking about?
Then the last time we went to in the summer, we walked by at one point, and they had Goofy stationed where Pluto was last time.
This summer?
Yep. And then further down, we saw Pluto in kind of a separate area, not where Pluto was the first time. So to the far left, it was Goofy, and then kind of further down, there was a separate line for photo with Pluto, kind of under the cover.
Yeah.
So one of the times, I can't remember, we weren't together, obviously, because
I
we
don't
would split up
remember seeing that.
pretty frequently. But I said to my wife, do you want to get our picture taken again? Maybe we can get Goofy. She goes, nah, the line's pretty long. Kids are tired. Let's go back and take a break. So it must have been midday at that point. So number 4 to me was a great surprise at the gate of Epcot, and that was, I wouldn't say Pluto and Goofy.
Yeah.
So character interaction at the gate. What do you have for 4?
So my number 4 is one that I can pretty much guarantee. I'm a stats guy, so I'll say 99% certain that is not on your list, and probably not on a lot of people's lists, is the fairy godmother.
Not on my list.
So in 2019, we brought my wife's mother with us, and behind Cinderella's castle, we saw the fairy godmother. And the line was short. We were probably third or fourth in line. We wait, and the kids go up, and then the kids are taking pictures, and the fairy godmother notices that the kids are with their grandmother. And so she has a full-blown conversation with my mother-in-law about how us godmothers have to stay together. And it was an amazing interaction. My mother-in-law gets pulled into, at the beginning you asked, are you ever too old for a picture with a character? I mean, she wasn't. She had no problem getting up there and getting her picture taken with a fellow godmother, a fellow fairy godmother, she kept calling her. It was an amazing interaction. It's a memory that I know that my wife will have of her and her mother and her daughter. So 3 generations getting.
That's cool.
And it's an amazing. It speaks volumes to the types of people that they get. And I know this is silly, but when a character is that good, that person, especially a face character, when a face character is that good, that person becomes the only one that matters. And I can still pick that particular woman out when I'm watching like footage from the parks and I see the fairy godmother. I'm like, oh, there's the one that we saw. So it's amazing. It was a great interaction. It's so underrated. And because it's not necessarily someone you think of wanting to meet, it was not a long line. And we were able to get our pictures done with her. And to me, it was a great memory. So kind of behind the castle where sometimes the stepsisters meet too.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So yeah, that was a great experience. That was my number 4.
So my number 3, I go way back with Walt Disney World. I've been going the majority of my life. If you listen regularly, you'll know I've told these stories before, but one of the greatest things about growing up and going to Disney is my character interactions and having, my dad take these photos of me and my mom and my sister and my cousins and my aunt and with all the different characters. And we still have those. So I like to dig them out from time to time and look at these pictures. So when I was coming up with this list, my thought was, I love the way it used to be. And I want to find those pictures that I have. And I'm sure there's some that my parents have that I don't have copies of in my phone because I'll take a photo of a photo and then I show my kids and they laugh and they go, oh my gosh, look at Daddy. He was so little. He had hair. And
yeah, hair. Oh gosh.
And I found quite a few. So I think I found 7 of them. And when we post on social media, maybe Nick can post kind of the collage that I made with all 7 of the pictures. So the way it used to be is characters would just walk around. Okay, and I guess it's kind of this way at Disneyland. I'll find out in a couple months here, but characters would just walk around and you would walk up to them and say, can I get a picture? You shake your hand. I don't think I would say, can I get a picture as a kid? I would just go up and shake their hand and just start a conversation with them because it's kind of the way I am. I will walk right up and just start talking. And
true.
I'm sure my mom will say, can we get a picture? And so we'd pose for a picture. And my dad was
for the picture, Robbie.
My dad was our family photographer, and he would always take the picture for us. And it's nice that we still have those memories. So I kind of made a list of the the different characters, and it's some wild ones. Were you surprised by who some of these walk around characters were?
I cannot wait to share some of that with our listeners.
It's crazy. So I'll start with one of the more obvious ones, but actually there's two of me with Minnie, but I only included one of them. So there's Minnie, but she's wearing her Japanese kimono.
Yep.
So our guess was that that particular photo was probably taken in Epcot in Japan. That's our guess. Mm-hmm. The next one that's relatively common character that you can still see is Tigger. And Tigger was obviously walking around. We're trying to, by looking at the pictures, I'm trying to identify where I was during each one of these. So Tigger, I don't even know where it was. I'm trying to show. Here's the original photo here, and you can see it if you want to follow along with these on social media.
I'll post them on social media.
Nick's gonna post them. So Tigger is one. Now Tigger does a meet and greet now when you're waiting in line for Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. I've seen that before. I know that. So when you're getting in line, way to the far left of the line, they do a meet and greet there. I'm pretty sure they do Pooh and Tigger. I don't know if they do any of the other characters, but those are the ones that I know that they'll do at that point.
They used to, and I don't know if they brought it back yet, but they used to do at the end of the breakfast at 1900 Park Fair, the buffet. They used to have a Tigger meet and greet there too.
So there's also some pretty crazy ones.
Dude, these are nightmare fuel.
Yeah. So
absolute nightmare fuel.
One of the scariest ones, and there's a picture of me, huge smile on my face. I have a name tag on that says, "Hi, my name is Robbie," and you can see my aunt in the back laughing, and it's Brer Fox. And look at his eyes. He looks like evil, doesn't he?
I don't know who signed off on these costumes. I cannot wait for our listeners. I'm going to post
frightening.
You know how on Twitter you can get like the content, like sensitive, like content, like filter. Like I need to do that with this. Like, careful, you might have a nightmare.
And the next one over is King Louie. So King Louie from the Jungle Book I'm posed with. And that's kind of a cool costume, though. It's not quite as scary, I guess.
What all I'll say about that costume is it looks like something you could get at the Halloween stores that pop up every year in like empty, abandoned grocery stores. You know what ones I'm talking about?
Look at his fur. His fur looks filthy. It looks like Chewbacca's fur.
It looks like he rolled up like a shag carpet, put it on. Oh my gosh.
And then the last two, which are...
These are hilarious.
They're hilarious. It's Honest John and Gideon from Pinocchio. And the one, Gideon looks so funny. Gideon's the cat, and the Honest John is the fox. They're going very heavy on the fox characters through the 1980s. The picture of Honest John, he's like leaning down like he's about to take a bite out of my head.
Yeah. Or kidnap you.
I don't know.
Those gloves don't even look like they fit his hand.
They're going to take me off to, what's the
Pleasure Island?
Pleasure Island. Oh, my gosh. And then Gideon, oh, my gosh, that face. I look a little unsure. And you look at the picture of my sister. My mom's holding my sister. My sister's looking over like, what is... My sister's like, what is this thing?
Yeah. Yeah, we will will post those so you guys can have the visual effect as well. So I'll be sure to post them on the day that this releases, so that way you can get the visual as Rob's explaining it, because it is quite terrifying.
So I guess shout out to my parents for taking these pictures and saving them. So my number 3 is the old school characters. What do you have for 3?
My number 3 is an interaction we had with Merida. So, you know where she meets in that little like area there, kind of like it's like her own little nook. It reminds me a little bit of an outdoor version of the grotto where Ariel meets. Anyway, back in there we go and meet, and my favorite interaction was between her and my daughter. At this point, my daughter had kind of come out of her shell with characters, and she definitely had come out of her shell. I think for any kid that age, she was 4 at the time. The face characters are much easier to interact with, and they're not as scary. Not that Disney characters are scary, but you know what I mean.
Well, the heads are quadruple the size of a normal head, and
it can be intimidating. So when she met, and it was a really good Merida, and she's talking to her and having interaction, and asks her about her brother, right? And asks if she would like to come and live with her and she could make a trade. And so my daughter basically traded her brother in
For
Merida, and my son was going to have to live with her younger brothers, those mischievous little brothers of hers. So the interaction was great. We have some amazing pictures of the kids with her. I can still hear the interaction in my head. There's a great picture of my daughter holding her hand and looking up at Merida like, oh, I now have a big sis because I've just traded in my brother for Merida. So.
And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
No.
It's just what you do.
Yeah, it is. It's what you do.
Just like trading baseball cards.
Yeah. Just traded them in for an upgrade. And it was just a great interaction. I think as parents, she was interacting back and forth with us. As parents, it was nice to see my daughter really get pulled into that universe, into that, the interaction for her was so real. And I think that looking back on it, it's one of those other ones where that particular human is always going to be Merida in my mind. You know what I mean? When you see the picture. I see the picture, it's like,
that's the Merida we had.
That's the real Merida right there. So for me, that was my number 3. I know that my kids still talk about that, and they still love Merida in that movie, I think a little more because of that interaction.
Yeah.
It's a great meet and greet in general.
Definitely.
A lot of people rank Merida up there. So that's my number 3.
My number 2 kind of links, the old school interactions with the new, because these characters have never gone away. All the way back from when I was seeing Gideon and those crazy scary ones, this character has been around for a long time. And Nick is looking at a picture taken by one of our good friends we have hanging up here in the studio. And my number 2 is the Country Bears interactions. And one of the greatest things about the Country Bears interactions, and it's changed, and I'll explain, but generally the Country Bears are out and around and saying hello and shaking hands and taking pictures, similarly to the way all these characters used to be at Walt Disney World. So I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm wondering, and please weigh in when you hear this, Nick, I wonder if the Country Bears characters are just kind of wandering around to help bring people into the show, and maybe because they're not super popular, they're not going to be mobbed. What do you think? You think that's part of it?
I do think that part of it is they're not going to get mobbed. We all know the ridiculousness of Disney, specifically Magic Kingdom on a busy day. If Mickey Mouse was just walking around, they would need too many handlers.
Yeah.
But with the Country Bears, it's not all that uncommon to see 2 of them even together.
Right.
And I don't ever notice that there's a handler with them. I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
But off to the side, way off to the side, because nobody's mobbing them. I love their interactions because, like, if you ride the Liberty Bell, they'll wave to you, which goes to show. I mean, they're able to, like, take the time out to go and stand on the edge near the water and wave because nobody's, like, looking to get up next to them. And then, or they'll be on the roof, not on the roof, but on the
That's
balcony.
what I was going to say. During COVID, they kind of made the switch, and now they would have, Big Al or Liver Lips or whoever would come up through the top and, like, look over the edge and wave to you. And there's a great picture that my wife took that I had. I had this tank top made that has Big Al's picture on it. Yeah. And I walked up and I was waving and I was showing him my shirt. Like, it's like he's my best friend. Like, hey, Big Al, remember me? Yeah. He'll give me the thumbs up. Oh, look at my tank top. And then he'll laugh and he'll give me the thumbs up. Yep. So then my wife has this picture of me. I should probably find this too. This picture of me, like, pointing up to Big Al. I'm standing below him, and he's on the top level. And Big Al's, like, got thumbs up or his arms out, and I'm pointing up to Big Al, and, like, I love that picture.
Was that from this trip?
No. Well, maybe it was. I can't remember. Because I had a similar interaction with him on the roof the last 2 times. Yeah. But I know they're out and around, but they also go up top. Whereas I think in, like, 2020... they were only up top. Yep. And now I think it's both. But I think that's so cool. And the fact that you can still, interact with those characters. And I have a great photo of Big Al with both kids with their arms wrapped around Big Al, big smiles. Like, the fact that you can just do that is great, that they still have that opportunity. Yeah. So that's a big one for me. Not only because I love Big Al so much, but because my kids loved it, and it's just a fun character interaction for literally anybody who's back in Frontierland. They're so funny, and I mean, the name of this bear escapes me, but he's got the scariest looking face, but he's so funny. Who's the one with the big eyes and the teeth that are all spread apart? I'm gonna look it up while you're doing your next one. I'll get back to you.
All right.
So that's my number 2 is Big Al and the Country Bears.
Yeah, my number 2 is the Evil Queen at Storybook Dining.
Oh, right. You were telling me about this.
It is simultaneously terrifying and just also like really cool. The Evil Queen is definitely like sitting there staring you down while you eat your dinner. And of course, you don't call her the Evil Queen. She is just the queen.
Or she got mad, right?
Oh, yeah. You don't want to call her the Evil Queen. But the interaction it never breaks character. I mean, I've seen interactions, I've seen videos online of people trying to get her to break character, and it is definitely not happening. She's having none of it. So what I would say is that it's a great interaction with a character that you don't get to see very often, unless you're there during like Halloween times and villains after hours type stuff. And even with kids, like my daughter obviously was 4 years old when she met, and it was not too terrifying.
Was she Oh, okay. I was just going to say, was she nervous?
Again, I think it's the fact that she wasn't wearing a big anthropomorphic like mouse head. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but yeah, it's a great interaction that I wish you didn't have to go to. It's a great restaurant, don't get me wrong, but I wish you didn't have to pay to go to this amazing restaurant to also see and have that interaction. So there are times when she won't sign autographs. When we were there, that wasn't the case, but I've heard of other times where when you ask for her autograph, you just get a postcard or whatever. But like that's okay. Like whatever. That doesn't bother me.
Does she have a handler that walks around with her too?
So she does not move. Like that is a actual photo pass opportunity at the end.
Oh, so she's not walking around the tables.
No. So the ones who walk around the tables are
the dwarfs.
So Dopey, Grumpy, and Snow White, and then at the end, as you're leaving, it's your meet and greet at the end.
Oh, cool.
Similar to how they do.
I don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah, similar to how they do Pluto at the end of Ohana breakfasts when you leave, or how they do. I'm trying to think of the other one. Tigger at the end of 1900 Park Fair breakfast. They do that. So when you're leaving, you meet and greet. It's kind of like the reverse order of how you do things for Cinderella's Royal Table, where at Cinderella's Royal Table, you meet Cinderella, then go upstairs. Here, at the end of your dinner, as you're walking out, you can go and meet the Evil Queen, and there is a photo pass photographer there. So that's pretty cool.
That's cool.
It is. It's a great interaction because I always think it's amazing how well they stay in character. That's my number 2.
My kids are 13 and 15, and I really feel like if we were to go to that Storybook Dining, they would love it just as much.
Oh yeah.
I feel like they're definitely, middle school and teen and high school ages. I feel like they would be like, let's do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
think it's great for any ages. I just want to point that out because I think, I don't think they're too cool for it. I think it's, magic is magic.
Correct.
I looked it up and it's Wendell. Wendell is the scary, not scary, but like
odd looking
one.
This is the one with the mandolin.
Yes. Really, really funny character. My number 1, and I'm going to guess we may overlap on this one.
Possibly. I don't know.
I don't know what you're going to have for number 1.
My number 1
seems like the most obvious number 1 ever.
I don't know that we're going to overlap, put it that way.
This is not on your top 5.
I don't know. Let's see. Go ahead.
Are you going to tell me if it is right away?
Yeah, I'll tell you right away.
You just say yes or no.
Yep.
My number 1 is Mickey Mouse.
It is not my top 5.
What?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I can't believe Mickey is not your number 1.
No, it's not.
Oh my God. Okay. Moving on. Mickey Mouse is my number 1. There's no character for me that makes it more magical than just being able to see Mickey Mouse in person. And when I was younger, there was a lot there. Minnie was walking around a lot. I have a lot of pictures of me with Minnie, but I don't have any photos of me just with Mickey Mouse. And I think one of the first times that we got a photo with Mickey was at when we did character breakfast at Chef Mickey's. But to me, it's Mickey, but it's kind of like when in the 80s, if you were to buy like an action figure, like we'll use He-Man, for example. It's kind of like if you buy He-Man, but they don't have regular He-Man. You have to get like He-Man with the battle armor or like He-Man in the Christmas outfit. That doesn't exist. That's a joke. So for me, meeting Mickey with the chef's hat is still really cool, but he's got a chef's hat on. I want just like Mickey. You know what I mean? I want the regular He-Man. You see what I'm saying here?
You've never met regular Mickey?
Well, we did. We did on our last trip.
I was going to say, that was your first time?
With regular Mickey, yes. It's the first time that like...
That line is ridiculous to wait in, but it is
pretty
cool. We waited. We did it.
Did I tell you the story about how there were the teenagers screwing around and
you
we got them kicked out?
Yeah.
Oh, it was awesome. That's the teacher and
the
me.
The teacher and you.
Oh, heck yeah.
I'm going to write you up.
Excuse me, these kids are being inappropriate. Boom, they were gone. So my number one's Mickey, and a couple times where you can see Mickey obviously are the different character breakfasts. What's the name of the one in Epcot that you really enjoyed where Mickey was? What's the name of the Garden Grill, the circular breakfast. Man, I wish we could have done that too. So there's Chef Mickey's. We got to meet him in Town Square, the different character breakfasts. So for me, my number one is Mickey, mainly because that's the top mouse right there. It all started with a mouse, and it started with Mickey, and for me, it's like that's the pinnacle of my collection, with getting photos for not only my family but my kids. I want one with us with Mickey Mouse. So my number one on this list is Mickey Mouse. What the heck is your number one?
So first, I just want to explain myself. Okay, I grew up in the Adirondacks, so I know. Trust me, I got.
There aren't any moose characters.
I have a point. I'm gonna get there. Okay, I grew up in the Adirondacks, and I never understood why people vacationed to the Adirondacks. I never understood why people talked about how beautiful it was. I never understood why people talked about these gorgeous mountains, because I had gorgeous mountains everywhere. I grew up with them, right?
It's like people that aren't around bodies of water. Like we could walk a couple miles and we're at a lake.
Right. So for me, Mickey is that at Disney, meaning he's everywhere. And so maybe I take it for granted, but the fact that you can meet Mickey as a farmer, Mickey as an artist over at Topolino's, Mickey as, Mickey as a chef, Mickey as Mickey on Main Street. You can meet all these different Mickeys, right? Safari Mickey, all of them.
Oh, right. That's in Animal Kingdom.
At Tusker House.
Tusker House, right.
It starts to get to a point for me where I just start taking it for granted. And I think that's why he doesn't make my list. That, and because
I'm worried that you're going to get hate mail.
I'm fine with it. I have thick skin.
Uh-oh.
And I am not Team Mickey. I am.
And I'm not he's not my number one out of pressure. It's just that's my guy.
I'm Team Donald.
Okay.
I'm a Donald.
Right? I like Donald too. So you are a Donald, though. That's true.
Number one on my list.
You're definitely a Donald.
Is Donald.
Okay.
I love it. I love Donald Duck because, like, I'm thinking of one in particular interaction at Tusker House. So you're at Donald's restaurant. It's his restaurant, right? It's not Chef Mickey's. This really is Donald's Safari, really, if you want to think of it that way. And my son was wearing his Donald Duck hat. You know, the ones with the duck bill. He has one of those with a duck bill.
Yeah, they have Pluto ones too. Those are great. And Goofy.
Yeah, and Donald had autographed it earlier in our trip. Donald number one, right? As he always autographs everything. Donald number one. And he was wearing it. And when Donald came around, he gave him this big giant hug and loved it. And then when Mickey came around, Mickey took his hat off and made him put it in his pocket, joking with him and stuff like that. And it was a fun back and forth because that's a great character breakfast, by the way. Great character meal. It's like breakfast, lunch, dinner. But for me, the way that Donald acts, I feel like he emotes better. What I mean by that is it's very hard with those characters. Right, the only person on my list that wasn't a face character other than Donald was Chewie, and that's because Chewie doesn't talk anyway, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But Donald, they can't talk, they can't communicate, but he does so well. Every Donald I've ever met does so well with
the body language. Yeah.
that I feel they do even better than Mickey. And I will tell you that if I were going to rank interactions of the Fab Five, Mickey's not even number 2. So I would go Donald, then Minnie, then Mickey.
I wouldn't. I would do number 2. I would do Goofy.
Oh, Goofy's really good. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Goofy's great.
but-
Goofy's so funny.
Yeah.
Like the way he moves his legs and putting his hand over his mouth.
Yeah, Donald really does a good job of I've seen him interact with Daisy where from across the way he'll see Daisy and he's not blushing, but you can tell he's blushing.
And,
you know what I'm saying?
He holds his heart to show he's in love. Yeah, they do a good job of that.
The interactions with Donald, I think, are better than the interactions with Mickey.
And that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong with that.
No.
I'm saying, for me, Mickey Mouse that's the classic. That's the pinnacle. So it's at the top for me. So, but based on what you're saying, it's hard for me to argue and say you're wrong. You need to like Mickey more. It's just basically what we're doing is it's apples and oranges. They're both great fruit.
Yeah.
It's just
if I'm ranking my best interactions, I've got to go with Donald over Mickey, and Mickey's not in my top 5.
We had great interactions on Main Street.
That's not to say that Mickey doesn't interact well. That's to say that that's how good Donald is. And also, I think, like I said, it's the impact of there's a Mickey around every corner. It's not like it used to be, right? It used to be like it was harder, right? Because they didn't want to break that fourth wall or whatever, and so Mickey could be in one spot at one time. It doesn't seem like it's that way anymore. Like everywhere you look, there's a different Mickey dressed in a different outfit.
And every time I see Mickey in a different outfit, it's awesome.
Yeah. So you're going in, you're waiting at Town Square, you're getting your picture done with Mickey. You come out and parade's going by, and it's like, wait a second. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's not quite that bad because I don't think they do it during the parade. But my point is that I think it's just over for me. That's what it is. It's a saturation point, just like it was with mountains when I was growing up. Now when I go back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how beautiful this place is.
Yeah, because you're away from them.
Right. We're basically flatlanders is what I feel like down here, even though it's not. So yeah, for me, I would say that Donald is my number 1, and specifically Donald at Tusker House, where he has a little bit of swagger because he owns the joint. So it's kind of fun.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's Safari Donald. He's definitely having a fun time.
Cool.
That's my number 1. You said before we started recording, you said you have a lot of honorable mentions.
Yeah, oh yeah. I'll go through them quick. I'm not going to spend too much time, but Chewbacca we talked about already.
Yeah.
That one was on there. My son had some awesome interactions with Stitch. That was a really good one when they did the Stitch meet and greet across from Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor. I'm not sure what they're going to turn that into, but that was a great one, our Stitch meet and greet. I also had Merida, whoever they cast, I don't know if they're literally Scottish or not, but their accent, anytime I hear it, is always on point.
Yeah,
so
I would agree.
They do a great job with casting on that. One we didn't mention that I think is super cool, and this is another one that roams the park, is Kevin from Up.
Yeah.
Kevin, and if you don't know who it is, it's the giant bird, and by giant I mean this Kevin is huge, and he walks around Animal Kingdom. She, right? It's a she. Thank you. And it's anytime I see Kevin, it's like, Kevin, run! And I texted my wife. I'm like, Kevin's out here. We gotta come see Kevin.
Yeah,
So good. Awesome. Let's see, Imagination Pavilion. They do a couple there, and that's it's not incredible, but it's kind of fun. They Wreck-It Ralph and Vanellope and Joy from Inside Out. Those were kind of fun.
I don't think Sadness meets anymore, but Joy and Sadness we met.
Sadness!
On our first trip.
I knew that there was another one because they had 2 from each.
Yeah.
And
right now, I think it's just Joy and Wreck-It Ralph. But
it was when we were there, and I think Wreck-It Ralph had just left. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the Beast is cool. I had that one on my list just because it's just an exciting one when you're eating at Be Our Guest and the Beast comes walking through. You don't really have a great interaction with it, but that's the exciting moment when you're at Be Our Guest and when you see the Beast. So is it on my list? No, it's just kind of cool. Yeah. That's the exciting part of that particular meal. Do you have anything?
Well, Mickey was on my honorable mention, but obviously I've been roasted for that.
Yeah. I get it though. Like you explained it well.
Divine Have you ever seen Divine?
Yeah, another good Animal Kingdom one.
That's a really cool one.
Yep.
You could walk right by and not even realize it. I think it's a really genius meet and greet, honestly. Stitch was also on mine, but not Stitch there. Stitch at Ohana.
Yeah, which I have not experienced.
Yeah, Lilo and Stitch over at Ohana. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because when you guys ate there was pandemic, right?
Yep. They had no characters there, and then they brought Stitch back after our trip last summer.
Yeah, and then I would say the Mad Hatter at 1900 Park Fair was hilarious. He was using some rhymes with my son's name that were, kind of potty humor, if you will. So, stuff that rhymed with his name, not in a bad way, but it was funny, and my daughter still will say something to my son about it.
Funny.
So I think that was good. The Mad Hatter was pretty clutch.
Cool.
So yeah, that's another one.
Cool. Well, if you have any that you liked that we maybe forgot about, throw them up on social media. We love seeing that stuff.
Trust me, these listeners, they've been good. They yell at us.
Good.
Yeah, I was screaming at my radio while I was in the car. I get that at least once a week. So.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to get that on this episode.
I probably will get some hate mail, and that's okay. That's okay, folks, because I do love Donald. All right. It's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, and tomorrow is just a list away.
Tune in next time, and we'll see you real soon.